Ooh, let's check. Are we live? Okay, hold tight. This is always. Yes! I believe we are live. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome back for another episode. If not now, when? Today, oh my God, I am so excited to have my incredible friend Yan join the show today. And if you don't know who he is, let me tell you. First of all, Yan started his career in investment world for 13 years. Oh my God, guys, he is so smart. Of course you can tell. Then he co-started a restaurant franchise with his brother named How Do You Roll? You might also recognize his name by the show The Shark Tank. He was pitched on the show and received the highest investment offer at the time from Kevin O'Leary. Oh my God. Yuen was named as a finalist for the Austin 40 Under 40 in 2013. And today, Yuen is the CEO of Casoro Group, a multi-family real estate investment firm that really focuses on the major market throughout the Southwest. And the most important thing, guys, today he's joined us with his second book, Business Model Blueprint. And if you have not got it, now is a great time. Go to the description, grab the book right now. So with that, guys, I am so excited. Thank you so much again for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Yuen. It's so good to see you again.
Yes. So let's talk about the book, Yan. Why another book? Why Business Model Blueprint? What inspired you? You already have one book.
Yeah, so I had the first book out only about a year ago called The Blind Grind, and that book was all about the elements of success. So what are the things that you have to do to become successful? And after that book, a lot of people read it and they came back and said, hey, man, that was great. That was great insight. It's not about hard work. There's other things that you have to really worry about to become successful in life. They said, but you kind of left us hanging after that first book because we don't know what the next step is. And I said, well, the next step is to go build a business, build something for yourself, build yourself an ATM machine so that you can make money without doing anything. And and so that led me to write the second book. And so this book is called The Business Model Blueprint. The whole idea around it is that I am telling you the framework of what it takes to create a business for yourself so that it can generate income. But most importantly is that as you become more and more successful, what I like to see happen is that you become not only successful, but become more significant. And the idea is of significance is the impact that you have on people from a positive perspective. And the more impact you have on people, the more positive impact you have on people, the greater your significance. And so, but you have to do that by building your success and then transcending to significance.
Beautiful. So yeah, for some of our people who are not really familiar with you, in the first chapter, you briefly mentioned about your journey, how do you become who you are today. Can you take us back to the journey? Tell us a little bit about how does the whole journey come about and how you really get start your wealth building process.
Yeah, it's funny. It's entrepreneurship was something that was kind of developed because of my parents. And so really, in a lot of ways, I have to give them credit because what they did was they came to this country, didn't speak English, very similar to yourself, didn't speak English and had to figure out a way to make it work, right? And to take advantage of the opportunity. And, a lot of us, say, well, where's the opportunity? What's the opportunity? And yet these people that come over, they sacrifice their entire lives to come over. And not only are they trying to look for the opportunity that we're all looking for, but then on top of that, they have the disability, so to speak, of not speaking the language yet and not knowing the language yet. And yet they overcome that. So really, when you think about the story for myself, it's really the continuation of the success that my parents brought, right? Which was at a very young age. They bought their first business when I was about 8 years old. And so they were really the entrepreneurs. Now, they did it in a very different way. Don't get me wrong. They didn't have some of the education that you and I have, but they did it in a different way, but it was still done. And so as a young person, watching my parents go through that, I didn't learn cash flow from going to the University of Texas, or I didn't learn about people and hiring and all that stuff from my degree from MIT. I learned all that stuff by watching my parents at a very young age and how they struggled through it and how they thought about it. And that was really the beginnings of this idea of, oh, I see how it's done, right? They built something over the years. They built multiple restaurants, and then they were able to retire at age 55. So
Wow.
great success story there, which then gives us the foundation to then build something even bigger, something even further. And so really that's where the story begins.
Wonderful. And I think, Yuen, oftentimes not many people know about how you grow up, right? You mentioned when your parents first bought a business, you were 8. Not many people know that you were really hustling in the restaurant, in the deep fryer, right? So share with a little bit about how you grow up and how that experience in childhood, how that shaped you, who you are today, and serve as a foundation of your hard work ethic, your persistence, your dedication, and truly the drive for success.
Well, it's interesting. When you're a child, you don't think much of it, right? You're just told to do what you're supposed to do, and you just go do it. And in hindsight, you think about some of the stuff we did, and picking up a knife at the age of 12, right? Cutting vegetables and stuff. I think there were some work hazards there that we didn't know about.
Amazing.
It wasn't just me, it was my siblings too, right? My sister, my brother, we all did it. So that's what, has created a lot of our entrepreneurial spirit. But I think that, the thing with that is that when you don't know, you don't know what you missed out on, right? So, a lot of people say, well, where's your drive coming from? Why are you so driven, and why is it that you just keep going? And I tell them, I said, when you grow up poor, you don't really want to go back. And you're definitely scared of going back, right? And that's what keeps you motivated, right? It keeps you going. But as time has gone by, I've gotten to a point where it's not just about the money, but more rather like the amount of people that I can help and the amount of people that I can be impactful to make their lives better. And really, in a lot of ways, then the money itself takes care of itself. There isn't a whole lot I have to worry about there. So when you ask the question of like, well, why do you do it, and how is your background creating that? Well, a lot of times people talk about missing out on life and stuff like that. Look, I didn't have a normal childhood. My childhood was, working at the restaurant from sun up to sundown. And then if you're in school, you go to school. And then when you're done in school, you go to work, and you work with your parents, and you do your homework at one of the tables, right? While the business is going on, and you have to get up and go serve people and back and forth. And so a lot of that creates that, not feeling like I missed out on anything, but rather understand that I had the advantage that I learned about certain things that most kids didn't get to learn about at my age. So you take what, call it lemons, and you make it lemonade, right?
Wonderful.
And for me, people always say, oh, well, you didn't get to go to homecoming. You didn't get to go to prom. Okay. But I got to run a business. Right. And I got to make a lot of money. I saved up a lot of money so I could go to school, go to the University of Texas. So it's just, everyone has their path, and that's okay. Whatever your path is, it'll give you the advantages to go do the next thing. Right. And that's what we have to realize.
I love that. And I really want to just point out, I love this picture of you serving at a restaurant. I was like, yes, he is honest. He actually while he's sleeping served. This is just fascinating.
Yeah, I think I was about maybe 15 there.
You look great, by the way. Those hairs.
Yeah, when I had more hair.
Amazing. So I would love to kind of pivot a little bit. Yuen, obviously at this point, right, you are very successful throughout your career. I'm curious, what is the toughest decision you have to make?
Wow, like on a daily basis or today?
Yeah, anything come out your mind. Because I feel like you've been through so many hardships. I feel like those are already prepared you in terms of the mentality and how do you show up and help supporting others, supporting community. And I'm just curious, how does that translate into you, and how do you show as a leader and make those tough decisions?
I think today the toughest thing is every day just being focused and knowing the intentionality of
Mm-hmm.
what I want to accomplish on a daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, especially if you're an entrepreneur, there's going to be highs and lows. There'll be good times and really bad times too, right? And it's great when you have the success and you're almost like, oh my God. Most people don't realize what it takes to even get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in order to get there, every day you have to be very intentional, right? And you have to plan out what you're going to do and what you're going to accomplish. Now, the big change over time for me has been that today my intentionality is the impact that I make on the people, right? So every
Beautiful.
day I'm thinking about, okay, well, who am I who am I going to impact today, and what am I going to
Mm-hmm.
do? And that intentionality and planned out on a daily basis
Mm-hmm.
builds up to something bigger, right, over
Mm-hmm.
time,
I love
to the
that.
point where you don't even realize it a lot of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, today I was on a Zoom call with somebody I'd never met before that hit me up and said, "Hey, my professor from the school said that I should talk to you because I'm trying to get an internship or I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out my career path or whatever." I'll meet with them 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, try to help them out, right? Somebody pinged me today from two businesses ago that I used to do. And she said, "Hey, I lost my job. I'm looking for something new." I said, "Hey, send me your resume. I'll see what I can
Mm-hmm.
find." Even though it's very different industries, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's that intentionality each day of knowing that I made a difference in people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? I,
So
I, I was
beautiful.
able to connect with my wife today. I was able to connect with my two boys today.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the moments that we a lot of times don't realize is what builds that success and that significance over time.
Beautiful.
Um, and it's those little things. And that's why I love your company, right? Evergreener, right? Yeah, no, seriously. Every day, intentionality of, my physical fitness, my mental health,
Mm-hmm.
people that I'm going to plan to touch and be a part of, be in
Mm-hmm.
the moment and be a part of that. And that adds up over time. And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, every day you got to think about that and actually do that, because it's very easy to slip into the mundane everyday routine and not think
Mm-hmm.
about what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Yan, because like you mentioned, like small thing really adds up, and how you today think about you are so successful already, but yet still intentionally focus on every day the small impact, how they act up to the bigger impact to the community, to people around you. Is so incredible. So I'm gonna dive back to your story a little bit. I was curious about. Was it difficult when you were building your wealth management career, which is very very successful? A lot of great. You have huge significance from your career. Obviously, you are building wealth, all the great things. Yeah, pivoting that to starting a sushi franchise with your brother, where at the first 6 months it's a negative cash flow, right? That is a big decision. Can you walk us through how do you make that decision, and how does that impacting shaping who you are today?
Yeah, that was an interesting time, right? So, my brother and I are about 8 years apart. So, growing up, I mean, we had a relationship, but you can imagine if I'm in college and he's only in middle school, there's some gap
Mm,
there. It's almost feels like a generational gap. And
mm-hmm,
so, growing up, our relationship was very different because of that huge gap. And so, when the opportunity came up to work with my brother and to build a business together and build some sort of significance, success, whatever you want to call it. The chance to do that was really very strong. And that's really what drew me to the decision to sell my practice, right? And that was a
mm-hmm,
great exit for me. But then to take the risk of going all in into
mm-hmm.
something I didn't want to do, which was restaurants and work with family.
Exactly.
But it came down to a very simple situation where at that time I was getting ready to have my second son, and
Mm-hmm.
for some reason I was having some conversation with my older son, who probably was about, I'm guessing, about 5 or 4 or 5, something like
Yeah.
that. And I don't even remember what specifically it was, but he says, well, it had something to do with, well, what if I have to help my little brother, right? And I said, well, look, you're the older brother, and if there's ever a chance for you to have to help your brother, there's no decision, you just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I felt like I was actually talking to myself and giving myself that advice, and not really talking to Julian, but rather
Mhm.
I just subconsciously just told myself, "You just gotta go do it." Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter, fail or succeed.
Mhm.
I will tell you today, my relationship with my brother is at a different level, right?
Mhm.
And we're both grown now. He's got children, right? He's married, got
Mhm.
children. I'm married. I've got my kids. We did a business together. We did it for 6 years. We sold it.
Mhm.
All of those things happened, but yet today our relationship is the most valuable thing that I've gotten out of that time frame.
Beautiful. And that was a hard decision. You was initially don't like to go to, you would not want to do the restaurant after you grow up, right? And
That's
then
right.
you are so successful at what you do, but yeah, give up everything, choose your brother, choose to support him and his ambition, his dream, and just decide. And I think that's just so incredible. It shows such integrity and honesty as
Yeah,
such a
and the interesting thing for me is that I don't think about that, right? I just think about how I want to have my life and the things that are important, right?
mhm,
I think that it would have been probably selfish of me not to take the chance to work with my brother and
mhm.
really get a chance to build a relationship and to do something together. It's fun to build a business by yourself. It's even more fun when you build it with somebody, but it's
Mhm.
even more fun when you build it with family and you go through because when you're a family, you fight very different.
Ooh.
The arguments that we had, that's another level of connectivity.
Mhm, mhm,
And the reality is this, right? I don't sit around worrying about, oh, I'm successful, I'm not successful.
mhm,
Obviously we all have needs and we have to work hard to fulfill those needs, right? I got to
mhm,
feed my family. I've got to make sure my kids are going to get educated, those types of
mhm,
things. But at the end of the day, when I'm done,
mhm,
whether it's tomorrow or 50
mhm.
years from now, all I want to know is that I helped other people and that they go, hey, Yen was somebody that was always there to help other people and make the world better, right? And you make the world
Yes.
better by starting with the people around you.
So amazing. Um, wow, Yan, that's one thing that I honestly so inspired by you and your story. It's incredible. So let's talk about that 6 years in that sushi franchise restaurant. It by no means is easy, right? You said it's fun, probably not easy. Was there a time that is so hard? What is time that you were like, damn, I don't know if I can do this? And what helped you to keep that drive, keep going? Like
It's funny, in our family, when we sit around and talk, we always say, God, why did we get into the restaurant business? We're so stupid. We should have done something different. It's because it truly is that hard. But out of
Mhm,
out of that difficulty is also what builds the character, right? And
mhm,
builds your value system and makes you who you are.
mhm,
When you're able to run restaurants, I will tell you that teaches you skill sets that not very many careers or businesses can give you the opportunity to do. And so I don't ever, regret it. I just go, hey, that was just my life and my path.
mhm.
And because of what I did and how difficult that was, it's made everything else since then so simple, so easy, right? And there's not a whole lot that I go, oh my God, I'm just razzled by that. No, nothing rattles me. I'm like, I've been in the
Wow.
restaurant business.
Wow. But were you always like that though? Is there when you first get into the business, before you were so calm and zen, it's like I can do anything. But is there a moment that this situation come out, you're like, God damn it, this is a lot bigger than I thought. And how
Yeah,
do you get
yeah,
over that?
yeah. Well, you know, I think that when you think about all the things that can happen, one of the biggest things that I work with people on and tell people about is this idea of emotional competence or emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, which is
Yes.
EQ, right? And it's
Yes.
in the book. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you're getting ready to pull it up. It's in the book, and I will tell you that EQ is so critical, right?
Mhm.
And they've done all kinds of studies that basically say that your EQ is two-thirds or more determinant of your success and
Mhm.
effectiveness, whereas your IQ is only one-third of the contributor to your
Mhm.
success or effectiveness in a given moment.
Mhm.
And so when you think about that, the ability to not go, oh my God, the sky is falling. So
Mhm.
think about it. Like right now, it's like, oh man, we got an election around the corner. We don't know what's going to happen there.
Mhm.
We've got COVID hitting us, and it's like, oh my
Mhm.
God, we've all had to work from home. Things have changed quite a bit. None of that is really a big deal. It's just
Mhm.
life, right? And I was on Facebook Live earlier with my mentor Satyan, and we were talking, and he asked me. I said, one of my favorite quotes from Charles Darwin is actually the quote where he says, "It is not the strongest or the most intelligent of species, but rather that species that is most adaptive to change that survives." Right?
Mm, mhm.
That's really what
Mhm.
it's about. So you can't let things
Beautiful.
razzle you, right?
Mhm.
Of course, my
Mhm.
parents, they went through a lot, and there were times when my dad would tell me the story about how, when we bought one of the restaurants, they were losing so much money, and it was so scary that he was, like, shaking and sweating in bed, and my mom just said, "Hey, look, it's done. What can we do out of it now? What can we make
Mhm.
happen now?" Right? And
Mhm.
it's that emotional quotient, that EQ that calms it down and says, "Look, that is the situation.
Mhm.
How can this be any worse than when you were running away from bombs in a war-torn country, right, with nothing, and you're
Mhm.
worried about this? You don't have to worry
Mhm.
about this. It's okay,"
Mhm.
right? And we go through failures and successes, right? Life is
Mhm.
not just about successes. It's also
Mhm.
about failures, right? And what you do with that, and how do you turn that into something else?
Speaking of which, I wanted to ask, you obviously have so many success in your career, but not many people talk about failure enough. I'm curious if you can recall one of the biggest failures that you have in your career or life and how that shaped who you are today.
Yeah, and one of the biggest failures is actually still how do you roll? Like most people go, "Oh, that was great. It was success. You got on Shark Tank, you
Mhm.
got this money, you got an exit, all of that stuff." But really, at the end of the day, that was actually a failure on our part. Because what happened was that because we got on Shark Tank, because the growth was happening so fast, we actually couldn't
Mhm.
handle it. We grew
Mm.
ourselves to death, right?
Mm.
Which is one of the things I actually mentioned in the book also, which is you have to be more scared sometimes when you're going along and things seem to be going so fast that
Mhm.
if it goes so fast, you better keep up because if you cannot, then
Mhm.
you're gonna die too.
Mhm.
Not only will the business die, but you will die too. And I would say to me, that was the biggest learning that I got of how do you roll, right?
Mhm.
Was that the failure to succeed and take it into a 1,000 unit, 10,000 unit concept,
Mhm.
15 years from now, we never got there. We never got there, right? And so I try to think about that and say, well, what did I miss there, right? What was the
Mhm.
missed opportunity? Obviously, we made the decisions that we made, and
Mhm.
in hindsight, it was still fine,
Mhm.
but at that moment, I was like, "Man, did I screw up? I never fulfilled the potential of what that could have been."
Mhm.
Right? And to me, that's the lesson. And most of us will go through life where
Mhm.
there will be a lot of those, right? Hopefully not a ton and not catastrophic, but
Mhm.
going through those things is the difference of whether or not the next one's gonna be successful, right?
Beautiful. How do you always have such a positive mindset and able to pick yourself up when those moment comes? You're always thinking about how can I prepare better next time, right? I felt you always looking for the bright side, right? How do you always pick yourself up? Or any advice for people who are right now being through hardship, being through challenges, or maybe quote unquote the failure at the moment and just don't see the light yet?
I don't know. It's always half full, right? Everyone talks about half empty, half full. For me, it's always half full.
Mm,
'Cause something is better than nothing. Um,
true.
you hear different things, right? Fail forward, right? And I don't know, somewhere in my programming, I am very much forward thinking and forward oriented. I don't spend much time in the back, like looking
Mm,
backwards, right? I just don't care that much about it. And most people talk about, Shark Tank and, my wealth management practice where we were managing all this money and dealing with all these, famous people and stuff like that. And I never look back. I'm like Edna Mode from The Incredibles. I never look back, darling. I never look back.
that's incredible.
Yeah. So I think that's a part of it, but I think that's what it takes. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and
Mhm,
you're going to, be successful as an entrepreneur,
mhm.
you better be prepared to let it go, right? And, and sometimes you will work your butt off and you will give your
Mhm,
entire life to something, and it will not work out. Just be prepared for that. It will not work out. It will not work out the way you intended it to work out. But that's okay. That's still your life. And there's always another chapter, right? And as long as you're breathing, you have a chance. You have a chance, right? It's Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying I got a chance, right? That's all you need. That's all you need, right? And you'll be amazed, right? Human beings, the human spirit is actually very strong, right? When you think about what you and I have gone through, we sit there and say, hey, that was kind of tough, blah, blah, blah. Go back one generation, go back 2 generations. Think about running away from the Communist Party. Think about the middle of, some of these people, here in the US, their parents had to fight, or their grandparents had to fight in the Vietnam War, the Korean War, World War II. I mean, nothing that we're doing today is really that tough, right? Like, if you want a bitch, like, come on, man. Right? I mean, think about it. Like, you're sitting in your beautiful house. I'm sitting in my beautiful house. I've got more space in my study here than my parents' first, apartment.
I got
Right?
AC, which is awesome.
So yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see why people have to be down about anything that's going on, right? And look, people have tough times. There's probably a lot of people that aren't working right now. That's got to be tough. Some people are dealing with illnesses and diseases. Yeah, absolutely. If you can survive that, you'll come back. Your human spirit inside of you will be so strong, and you'll be able to pick up the pieces and have a great life.
Beautiful. Amazing. Since you mentioned about Shark Tank, I have to ask, what surprised you the most when you get on the Shark Tank, and also what advice you give to the future entrepreneurs who may be going on right now or in the future?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is that most people don't realize, and I didn't really realize it when I got into it, is that we were in front of the sharks for over 90 minutes. And the clip, you can still find it on YouTube if you look for it. Somebody keeps telling me that it's on the internet. The whole clip is only 8 minutes long.
Yes.
So you go from 90 minutes of conversation down to 8 minutes of TV, right? And that's the biggest shocker that for me, I didn't realize, right? I didn't know how they were going to edit it down, and I kept thinking there was so much good business conversation, and yet none of it showed up. Right? That's just the way it goes. So to me, that was kind of the biggest shocker. I will tell people that are entrepreneurs and are thinking about getting on the show. I think it's a must. If you can get on the show, the exposure and the popularity of it is so great that it'll give you the marketing that you need, but you need to be prepared for it, right? So I'll give you an example. So after we were on the show, we had 1,800 something leads that came in, inquiring about becoming a franchisee with us. Imagine, we went from 6 franchisees to now 1,800 inquiries.
Wow.
all over the world, right? Saying, hey, I'm thinking about getting into your concept because I saw you on this TV show. So all of a sudden we signed up, 30, different franchisees, 400 units to be opened over a 20-year period. All these things were happening. But if you're not prepared for it, it'll kill you. And that's exactly what happened to us, right? We weren't prepared enough to handle what we needed to do, right? We couldn't open the stores fast enough. We couldn't train people fast enough, because sometimes, and I learned this the hard way, sometimes some things just take more time than you wanted. And that's a really hard thing especially for younger people to accept, right? Is that some things just take time. A cake takes time to bake. You cannot rush it.
So true. Struggle is real.
The struggle is real.
So you built this How Do You Roll for 6 years, and you said now the growth is expanding so quickly. Was it hard to let go? Is it hard to sell it to the business? Was it difficult?
Yeah, and that's also one of the lessons I put in the book for you as well too, right? Which is, you've got to learn to realize that the businesses is not your life. And and what I mean by that is that your job as a human being is to love your family, is to love the people that you work with and support, right? That's what you need to love. Don't fall in love with your business, right? The business is there to do a job. It's just part of the system and part of the machine so that you can love more, right? And spread more
Beautiful.
love.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a section in the book where I talk about that and I say, hey, look, if it's time to let go, you just have to let go. People talk about, oh, it's your baby and blah, blah. No,
Yeah.
my two babies are upstairs right now, in class. No, those are my babies, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's not my baby. My baby is my beautiful wife that has been with me for 20 something
Oh.
years. Those are my babies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Right. That's what's important. And quite honestly, one of the investors in How Do You Roll was the one who
mm-hmm,
gave me that advice, right? Which was, hey, what's important to you is not the business right now. What's important
mm-hmm.
to you is your family, right?
Beautiful. I love that. So now let's pivot to our book, which has so many incredible insights I want to share with all of you guys. Well, at the beginning of the chapter, right, you kind of really lay the foundation of success with physical, mental, and financial health. Can you walk us through how does that thought process come about, and how can we take the advice from that starting today?
Yeah, so that's a big one, and that's why again I love your company, Evergreener, right? Because that's what it talks to, and it gives you something to work off of. But so
Mm-hmm,
my thought process there is that the advice there is really around the idea that if you're not physically, mentally healthy,
mm-hmm.
you can't accomplish anything anyway. So why
True.
would you take the opportunity to play the game of business, right?
Mm-hmm,
It'd be like putting an injured person onto the football field and saying, "Let's go play football," but they're injured.
mm-hmm,
It doesn't work.
mm-hmm,
If your mind is not in the right place, right? You're physically not in the right place, your finances are not in the right place, you're not going to be successful. That's why most businesses fail, right? And so
mm-hmm,
it's very important to have that game plan laid out. And so in this book, so in the first book, I kind of alluded to it. In this book, I actually lay it out and say, look, this is what you
mm-hmm,
need to do. You need to save some money. You need to make sure you have some friends that have some money. You need to be in good shape. You need to be in good, mental state, all of those things, right? And because
mm-hmm,
once you get into the business and once you become an entrepreneur, the amount of mental energy and capacity that you have to have
mm-hmm,
is 10 times greater than where you're working right now,
mm-hmm,
right? Most people don't realize that. The mental capacity, the
mm-hmm,
emotional capacity of what it takes to run that business is going to be the real test. That's
mm-hmm.
the real game, right? Everything else is just preparing you for the game. That's the real game.
Mm-hmm. Incredible, amazing. And in the book, yeah, you refer a few times about the ikigai and how to leverage that to find your passion and purpose. I'm curious,
Yeah.
how did you leverage that framework and find your passion and purpose? And maybe you can share some advice or thought with our listeners who may be in the process of finding that heart purpose.
Yeah. I didn't even I didn't even put it in the first book. So the concept of the Japanese term ikigai, it translates to purpose for being, right? The reason for being. And it was Marina from the Asian Chamber who shared it with me, and then so I started
Mm.
doing research on it because it was so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after I did a lot of research and thought through it
Mm-hmm.
and kind of started talking to people about it, I was like, I have to put this in my book because so many of us run around and we don't know our reason for being. We go, maybe I'm here to make some money. Maybe I'm here to have a good time. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
should pursue my passions.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the world needs this right now. The reality is it's all those things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the concept of Ikigai is to put all those things together. What are you good at? What will people pay you to do? What does the
Mm-hmm.
world need? But what do
Mm-hmm.
you love to do, right? And when you put all of those ideas together,
Mm-hmm.
now you know why you exist, right? And I felt like that was so important, right? If you don't
Mm-hmm.
know that, how do you build a business? How do you have a heart and soul of a business if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't reflect the reason for you to be in existence, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought it was very important to put that into the book, and I reference it multiple times. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, look, when you get to this point and you're trying to make some decisions, reference back to the Ikigai model and say,
Mm-hmm.
how does that fit into your ability to get paid to do that? Or how does that fit
Mm-hmm.
into what does the world need from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of those things become very important in that decision-making process.
Beautiful. So that lead me to my next question is really, Yan, what is your ikigai and what significance you want to leave to the world? Which really you mentioned multiple times in the book, and that's the purpose of the whole wealth generating process, right?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, as I went through those exercises over the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
really what it comes down to is for me is just helping people, right? The more people I help make successful,
Mm-hmm.
I've done my job. That's my purpose for being. Yeah, it really is. And you know what? I get paid to do it. I'm the CEO of Casoro Group. I get paid a lot of money to make sure that those people get what they need, and the people that live in our apartment
Mm-hmm.
communities get what they need. So the wake of what I do today is really about people, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I get paid to do that. I love to do that. I'm good at doing that, and the world needs it. So that is my
Beautiful.
purpose for being. Yeah, and it's not just my business side; it's also my personal side, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to support all my family, right? And whether it's my aunts and uncles or my parents or whoever, um,
Mm-hmm.
I always want to make sure that I'm there for them if they need me.
Beautiful. I love that. And I'm going to take a quote from your book and love you can tell us, what's your thought by that. On the page 238, you said, quote, "You can't understand that money isn't everything until you have it." Quote.
That's
Can
so
you
true,
explain?
yeah, and the reason I say that is because it's true, right? So you think about our world today, and just for myself personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a need that is not fulfilled, not a single one.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a want that is not fulfilled, not a single one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now there is maybe higher levels of want, but that's about it, right? That's about it. Like, maybe I drive a little bit more expensive car, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Mercedes just isn't good enough, right? I mean, which is crazy, right? Or, I need a bigger house because, 4,000 square feet just isn't enough, right? The thing is, once you get to that level
Mm-hmm.
and you start realizing that that's all you're really after, you
Mm-hmm.
start realizing the money is not that important. Even though you have it, it's
Mm-hmm.
not the most important thing. It's what you do with the money that becomes the importance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people it's kind of like a poker player. You want a lot of chips, but the chips themselves don't have meaning, which is the money.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the money to play the game, that's the only relevance that the money actually has. So as a poker player, you want a lot of chips because you're trying to win the game,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But the chips themselves, if I just gave you a bunch of chips, you'd be like, I don't care. Like, what good does this do me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I can use the chips to go play this game, and this is the outcome of that. Now there's importance. That's why I said you don't realize that sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
when you're in the struggle, because the struggle is real, I get it. And when you're in the struggle and you're trying to make ends meet and you have needs that are not fulfilled, you have to get
Mhm,
past that first, right? Get
mhm,
past the needs, then the wants, and then you start realizing the wants are just bigger wants, and that's not even important anymore. So now what do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with your chips, right? How are you
mhm,
going to play out, with your chips?
mhm. So incredible, so beautiful. I really love that, Yuan. And obviously, at this point, we learned about you. We learned about how you are such a heart-centered entrepreneurs, right? Having a journey become who you are today. And obviously, it sounds like the story of you, how you start your childhood earlier time, really sets a foundation of who you are, right? Such as successful people today. I'm curious. Now, you as a parent, how do you pass down those hardworking spirits or those grind, those hustle at early age to your kids, so they can also have the same amount of work ethic like you are today?
Well, so there's a couple pieces to that. One is I'm very lucky to have such a great wife, right? Yvette takes care of the boys and allows me to go do what I need to go do. And if it wasn't for that and her holding down the home front,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I could be successful. I'm not sure I could be significant. It would. I don't think I would be able to do it, right?
Amazing.
And so really a lot of the credit goes to her and her ability to be my better half, not even my half, but just my better half,
Oh.
right? And so that's a big
Oh.
part of it, right? And that's what it takes. And nobody gets to do it alone. And
Mhm.
so having the right teammate is so critical, right? So critical. And so I
Mhm.
owe a lot of my success and failures and everything, just my life,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
her and what she does, right?
Mhm.
And she's amazing. I mean, if I don't know if I got lucky or what, but I'll take it because I mean, she's an amazing mom,
Mhm.
and I just try to support. uh, it's funny because the two books that I've written,
Mhm.
as I was writing them, I was just
Mhm.
really thinking about my two boys, right? And
Oh.
I wanted, because it's funny because when you're a parent, and those of you who are out there are parents, they don't always want to hear what you have to say. Kids don't listen, but they do kind of listen, right? And
Mhm.
so I wanted to just put on paper what I had learned, right? Which was,
Mhm.
success is not going to come from just hard work. It's just not going to get you there. And we talk about these examples that I have in the first book live with them
Mm.
all the time, right? Which is, hey, you're doing this. How would you grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? How much hard
Mhm.
work are you putting into it? Scale of 1 to 10. Okay, when
Mhm.
we multiply that out, what's your probability of success then, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they understand. So I'm trying to train them on that formula to
Mhm.
understand what it takes, right? And the focus that is necessary. I
Mhm.
don't necessarily want them, just like my parents didn't want it for me and their parents didn't want it for them, to always have to grind it out, right?
Mm.
It's not always necessary. The
Mhm.
idea is that I'm here to build a foundation that is even bigger, even
Mhm.
higher, and even better than the
Mhm.
foundation that was given to me, so that they can even do bigger and better things than I did, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So the idea of, like, I'm not that traditionalist, I guess. Not a very good Chinese parent, I guess. I don't I want them to pursue their passions, their dreams,
Mhm.
things that their ikigai, right? I
Mhm.
need them to
Mhm.
have their own ikigai. They don't
Mhm.
need to follow my ikigai. My ikigai was meant for something different. My
Mhm.
purpose for being was very different, right?
Mhm.
My drive is very different, and they've never experienced poor.
Mhm.
So you gotta think about that, right? They've never experienced poor,
Mhm.
right? They're the kids that when I was growing up going, "Man, I wish I had that. I wish I was like them." They're
Mhm.
already those kids, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so how do you instill value systems
Mhm.
and things and things that they can grow with? Well, it's completely different, right? It's
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
different than the quote unquote work ethic that I was given or taught.
Mhm. Mhm.
For
Mhm.
them, it's not about just work ethic. It's about, what do you love? What's gonna make the world better, right? And great, you like money, okay, well, I like money, so somebody's gotta pay you to do it, I get that, and we gotta be smart about that, but it's
Mhm.
that balance between all of that, right? And
Mhm.
so, a lot of it for my kids, what we try to work with them on is figuring out their ikigai. What is their purpose for being?
Mm.
Right? And you can and a lot of us, as we were growing up, our parents, people around us see it. They see certain skill sets that are like, so and so would be really good at that, right?
Mhm.
Or,
Mhm.
so and so shouldn't be doing that because that's just not their personality. They really should be thinking
Mhm.
about this, right?
Mhm.
And so it actually opens up more opportunity for our children
Mm.
than us growing up, and it's the old, Chinese Asian joke about you only have 4 career choices, right? You're either gonna be an actor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a business owner. Those are your only choices. Don't talk to me about anything else, right?
Yep, yep. That's
And
incredible.
and it's only funny because it's true that that is the way we grew up. That was the way we grew up,
So true. I
right?
almost became eye doctor. I'm so happy I'm not.
And it's nice to see that, Asian Americans are becoming comedians, actors, writers, other things that I didn't even know existed, like, as a
Mhm.
career. Like, I didn't know you could make money. I didn't know you could be a director of Aquaman, right, and make, like,
Mhm,
millions of
mhm.
dollars. Shoot, I
Mhm,
picked the
mhm.
wrong business, right? But it's figuring all that out, right? In the first book, I talk about what is your natural talent and talents, right?
Mhm,
If
mhm.
you can figure out your combination, then you can figure out your ikigai, and then once you
Mhm,
put all that together, you're
mhm.
gonna be successful. There's no doubt about that, right?
Mhm,
It's when
mhm.
you don't figure those things out
Mhm.
and then the system doesn't roll the way it should, and it is not smooth, right? Because maybe you're doing something you don't like. Maybe it's something you like, something that no one will pay you to do, right? All those things come into the whole equation, and it's important for people to take the whole package and say, "Oh, okay, you can't just take the engine. I got to take the wheels, the windows, everything, and put the whole car together," right? And
Beautiful.
so that, to me, that's really what I try to leave with my kids is say, "Look, you got this opportunity that's very different, very, very unique to you. What are you going to do with it?"
And I want to touch base on, you mentioned about briefly that hardworking is actually not the, what do
It's
you
not
call
the element, the key to success.
100%, which I think people might get confused by. Can you explain that? And what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So think about it this way. If you just work hard, that's great, but you're not going to build wealth and money off of that. So if you're in my business, if you are the best leasing agent, that's great, but there is an economic limit to being a leasing agent, right? And so if you want to continue to build your economics, you got to do other things. But what does it take to be able to get the opportunity to do other things? If you're the world's best ditch digger, you're still going to get paid as a ditch digger. Right? So what I'm trying to get people to understand is that that is so working hard just doesn't get you there. But if you understand what the elements that create the success are, and you work hard on those elements, that's the key. That's the key. So hard work is the multiplier. It's just a multiplier. It's not the element, it's the multiplier, right? So in mathematical equation, it's the exponential growth that you're looking for, right? But if you have 0 over here, hard work multiplied by a gazillion is still 0, right?
Right.
So I tell people, I said, you got to figure out. So in the book, I list out 6 elements that have to exist. And what are those 6 elements? And it's going to be different for everybody. And this is the part where people are going to hate, but there are certain elements you have no control over. You just don't, right? Your starting point is different than somebody else's starting point in this game of life, right? So you might have to work harder to improve your points, right, than somebody else. But you work at that. You have to apply your energy there. If you're just applying your energy to just doing the grind every day, I promise you're going to look up 10, 20 years from now and you go, what did I do with my life, right? So the whole idea of the book is like, don't worry about the hard work. If you have that work ethic, that's fine. But just think about it this way. If you're born the son of Sam Walton of Walmart, you don't really have to work hard.
No.
There is not a moment that you have to work on. When you add all the Walton siblings together, they're still the richest people in the world. More so than Bezos, Gates, all of those people. So as somebody that's not that position, what do you do, right? Okay, I build my education. And there's mathematical and scientific proof that shows that the higher your education, like yourself, right, multiple master degrees, right, the higher your likelihood of economic success, right? Or the bigger your network, right? The more people that you know that can help you, that's a game changer. So you work hard on those things. You build your network, you build your education, you build your physical health, you build your mental health. Those are the things that you should be focused on. And that's where you should put all your energy to, right? And when you do that, the likelihood, the probability of success expands. It's not a given. It's not 100%. It can't be, because tomorrow you could get hit by a bus and right? There's always the unknown. But if everything goes according, then that's really what you should be thinking about.
Amazing. I love that. That's so helpful to kind of understand it's a multiplier. It's not the incredible important elements alone. You have to multiply on top of talents, skills that you are good at, the world needs.
That's
I love
exactly
that.
Right. Yep.
My last question for you, Yuen, is do they come back to full circle? What does American dream mean for you as a first generation?
Yeah, when I was growing up, I don't think I knew any different. I think the American dream was like, hey, I'm going to have the nice car, the big house, a lot of
Mhm.
bling. I can buy all the clothes I want, go on vacation, because those were things that, the generation previous just never had. Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, so growing up, that's what I was thinking.
Mhm.
And again, once you get there, because I had a 7-figure exit on my first business, right, on my
Mhm.
wealth management business. So I was a millionaire technically. I
Mhm.
was a
Mhm.
millionaire by the age of, you know, 30, 29, I don't know, something
Mhm.
like that. And
Mhm.
you think you're hot shit until you realize that that's not really what life is about, right?
Mm,
And so for me, the American dream is about building something that you create a platform or a
mhm,
foundation that you can live comfortably. All your wants and needs are met, but more importantly, it leaves a legacy that has impact on other people,
mhm,
right? That's the
mhm,
American dream, right? So that it's something that goes beyond yourself, right?
mhm, mhm,
N- No, not very many places on earth do you get that opportunity, right? So people talk about, there's a lot of politics going on right now because of presidential elections and this,
mhm,
that, and the other. And I know we all have differences in terms of where, the country should go.
mhm,
But I always tell people this is still the greatest country on earth, right?
mhm,
Right here, right now, this is still the greatest country on earth, right? And regardless of your beliefs of
mhm,
this side, Democrat, Republican, let's put country before party,
mhm,
right? And not party before country,
mhm,
right? Because there's a lot of argument. I hear people get really upset right now, right? About differences of views and stuff like that. The
mhm,
reality is that we're a lot closer together than we are apart, right? Because when I meet somebody that's a Republican and I meet somebody that's a Democrat, they seem really far apart until you start talking about them as a human being. And all of a
mm,
sudden, they're a lot closer.
mhm, mhm,
Right? And to me, the American dream is getting to exercise all of that, right? And people don't I think in this country we take our freedoms for granted. And I think it's important not to do that and to realize the opportunity of
mhm,
where we sit at this moment in this time frame,
mhm,
right? Everything from the great technology that we have.
mhm,
People talk about COVID, and I'm like, you realize that they have a vaccine faster than they've ever created a vaccine in the history of mankind. Yes, it sucks. We're probably gonna have to sit at home for 6 more months or a year. I get that. But the speed that they're able to do that
mhm,
is incredible. It's
mhm,
incredible, right?
mhm, mhm,
The opportunity we have in front of us. Yeah, okay, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, whatever.
mhm,
The opportunity doesn't change.
mhm,
It's still right there in front of us. The
mhm.
American dream is just to have the opportunity. That's it.
Beautiful.
People die to come here just so they have that freedom to do that, right? We cannot forget
Mhm,
that. We cannot forget
mhm,
that, right? I think about yourself, right? You came over here with nothing but a dream, right?
so
And yet
true.
you can make something happen, right?
Mhm,
And you can make something happen. That's true for all of us.
mhm,
And that is what people cannot let go, is that when we talk about the American dream, it still exists. It's
mhm,
still there. We
mhm,
just have to take advantage and actually use it, right? And
mhm.
stop complaining, right? Somebody told me once when I was growing up, they said that excuses are the
Mhm.
building tools for foundations of nothing.
So
Excuses are
true.
the building tools for foundations of nothing. So stop making
Mhm,
excuses, right?
mhm, mhm,
The American dream is there, and we sometimes don't even realize that we're living it and we have
mhm,
it, and until you see some of the things that happen around the world,
mhm,
right? And you see,
mhm,
people talk about China and the economic growth there, and quite honestly, it's very impressive. Except that you're still seeing people that are going to get arrested or shot because of something they said, right? Or the fact that you can't own 100% of your company because the government has to own 51%. We
mhm,
don't realize those things, right? And so,
mhm,
sometimes we just need to stop and be okay with that and realize that.
mhm.
And man, if you're an immigrant, first generation, second generation, don't let it slip. right? It's like M&M, you get one shot, one opportunity, and just don't let it slip away, and I feel like sometimes we forget that and we get caught up in the drama and the BS and all that stuff.
Mhm,
The reality is we need to stay focused and accomplish some great things, right? And we have the ability to now more than ever.
mhm. Wow. Wow, Yuen, this is so beautiful. I just love that you are always so positive, always half glass full, always able to see the things in the right perspective and really think about how you'll take the journey, right? Reinvent yourself over and over again, always pick yourself up, always focus on how do you create a significant for not only yourself, your family, the community, everybody around. I'm just so honored today to have you share this journey with us. And everybody, if you're listening today, if you have not got your book, now is a great time. Go to the link below. Go get your copy from Amazon. It's fantastic. You can learn so much. And with that, guys, thank you so much for coming today. We are so excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Win.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, guys.